Ooh, welcome into the Fantasy Football Forge. My name is Steve, and it is time for the top 8 interior defensive linemen, top 8 edge rushers. We'll go through both in this video, and so I hope you enjoy. You may notice I might look a lot like I did for the Mock Draft Monday video, and I might look a lot like I did for the coming video, which should be the safeties and the linebackers. And you would be correct. I do look the same because I'm recording these all at the same time, batch recording. So here we go, the top 8 interior defensive linemen for this draft. As of now, things may change, but you know we're as close as we can get here to things being pretty solidified in terms of my draft board. My number 8 interior defensive lineman of this draft is Brandon Dorlus, 6'3", 283 pounds. Has a bit of a weird body type. Appears to be a bit of a tweener type of guy. I've got a 3rd round draft grade on him, by the way. That's what you can see in the little parentheses there. He might be off of some people's boards, some teams' boards, or he might be lower on some teams' boards just because they might not know exactly what to do with him. He ended up losing some weight going into the Senior Bowl, looking like he was going to go edge for sure instead of being a tweener. And then I believe he weighed in like he gained half of that weight back or so for the combine, which usually is where a lot of players lose weight so their 40s are quicker and everything. So I wonder if he got some feedback that people didn't really like the route that he was going, or maybe something else was going on. Whatever the case, he had been a little bit underweight. That was a little bit concerning, or it just looked like he was strictly going for being an edge rusher instead of a defensive end. And now he's back to maybe being in that tweener territory, but back to being home with where we are familiar with him. And so that's about a 3rd round value. Really like his tape a lot. Like I said, a bit of an odd body type to him, but still very much an athletic guy with a lot of power, but he can also win with speed to power as well. So he can kind of win both ways, power and then just right off the bat, or speed to power. He has a variety of pass rush moves already in the bucket, so that's always good. And he's got above acceleration and speed once again, so he's got the speed and he's got the power, and both of those show up on tape. What he does lack is some of that next level, like explosiveness, and once again his size. He is a bit of this tweener. He can struggle to set the edge against the run, set that anchor, be an anchor there, and not let the D-line get pushed backwards. He is only 22 years old. He did make Bruce Feldman's top 51 list. Once again, he's a guy who I always want to get higher on my list, and I also tend to almost let him slide sometimes a little bit when I'm trying to move things around. And then when you watch it, it's like, okay, yeah, there's a reason that I like this guy. So Brandon Dorlus, very, very much a likable prospect. It's going to bring us on to my number 7 interior defensive line in Michael Hall, 6'2.5", 280 pounds. He had an elite pass rush win rate of 18.3%. So very, very high there in college. Another 3rd round grade on him. He has a low center of gravity at 6'2.5". Shorter than your average interior defensive lineman. But you combine that with his strong upper body strength, and he really has control to hold guys and manipulate where offensive linemen are, and get off of those blocks and get around them to help in the run game. He plays with a very high motor, and he's a power player. He does struggle against the double team. That's just a little bit too much for him to get through. He doesn't have excellent initial burst off of the line either. He doesn't deliver a great initial pop. That explosiveness isn't quite there for him. And injuries are a concern for him as well. So those are the things holding him back. Let's move on to pick 6. It's not a pick. My number 6th ranked defensive lineman, Brooke Aroo. This is a guy who I always want to get higher, and I actually had him a little bit lower for a certain period of time, and I was able to get him back up in my rankings here. He's 6'4", 295 pounds. I have a straight 2nd round draft grade on him. Had a good pass rush win rate of 8.7%. and he can get low to help, create leverage once again for a 6'4" guy. He gets really low, plays with a really high motor. Weaknesses are going to be his arm length. He could use some work on his pass rush moves, and he has consistency issues with his technique. He's just really, really good at his job, and I love Rook, so he's going to be my number 6 interior defensive lineman, which is going to bring us to number 5, T'Vondre Sweat, another guy who I always want to get higher, but the reality of it and Rook and him, it's going to depend what a team's looking for. The second round draft grade on T'Vondre Sweat, he's 6'4.5", 366 pounds. Remember, we were just talking about a guy not too long ago, Michael Hall Jr., 280 pounds, and being in the middle of that defensive line. Well, here's T'Vondre Sweat at 366 he weighed in at. He's a very, very big guy, and that is my only concern for him. It comes down to the conditioning, the motor, because as the game goes along, he did tend to slow down at college. Understandable at this weight, but that's what's going to prevent a guy like him from being drafted in the first round. Almost certainly is, are you ever going to get a 3-down guy out of him? I don't think so. I think he's going to have to be a part of your rotation. You're going to have to limit his snap share. But by God, oh God, when he's in there, he could absolutely be the best, single tackle, nose tackle defensive lineman in the league. He had great to elite pass rush win rate of 15.3%. He's got size and he's got power. We already know about that size, but if he's not steamrolling somebody and just pushing him over, he's still pushing him back right into the lap of the quarterback. He's an absolute monster. But here's the best part about him is that he is not all size and power. He has strong footwork. He's relatively light on his feet for his size. He has good eyes. He keeps them on the backfield, and he uses his hands well. He's been, as I just said, a great pass rusher, and of course at this weight, well, not necessarily of course, but he is also elite against the run. He was, in college at least, he was elite in both of those areas. He does struggle to block shed a little bit, so hopefully that doesn't hurt him too much at the next level. He can get a little bit more violent with his hands, and his lateral movement is not necessarily his thing. He's more of a north to south rusher, but other than that, he's a beast. And I actually liked his combine. I thought that he gave it his all in all the drills. They don't always look good because of his weight and size, but honestly, for his weight and size, some of those times are pretty good. And I thought when he was doing like the wave drill, I thought that he looked really good for a guy his size. Yet again, there is the caveat of for his size, but also he's different than a lot of 366-pound men in how well he can move. That's for sure, and so that's what should get him into the second round of the draft as well. That's going to bring us on to my top 4 interior defensive linemen. We're getting close here to number 1, and at number 4 is a guy who I've been hesitant on bringing him forward, but consistently been moving higher and higher in my rankings. I think I shouldn't say we've gotten him to his ceiling, but second round grade here on Braden Fisk, and he's just like he's what I look for in a lot of ways. I always like really quick twitch guys, and he is consistently elite off of the line with how quickly he gets off of the line. I've said this before about him, and it's not the right position, but there are things about Braden Fisk outside of, I think, this color of his skin, I'm pretty sure, that remind me of Max Crosby and why I liked Max Crosby, and it comes down to that elite quickness off the line, as well as just the motor, the aggressiveness, the attitude that you see when he's on the field. He's got these heavy hands, and once again, he's aggressive. He can push blockers back. He can disengage from blocks at will, and he can just control the block until he wants to, do something else. And he's got great footwork to combine with all that. He's 6'3.5", by the way, 292 pounds. He's not the perfect prospect. That's why we got a second round grade on him. Tackling is an issue. If you can get there and then you can't tackle the guy, well, that's no bueno. You need to finish the play, and he does have some struggles with tackling, and that could be due to the fact that he has extremely short arms and he's at an extremely short wingspan. So wrapping up, tackling around bigger guys, not always going to be easy for him, and it's going to be easier for them to slip out of his grasps. And he also struggles to take on double teams. Look, this is a guy who's dominated throughout the entirety of this process. Probably came into it with like a depending on the person, an early day 3 to a late day 2 kind of grade on him. And he's clearly played himself into being a top, I'd say 40, 45 kind of pick here. If your team gets Braden Fisk, you should be extremely happy about it. And that's going to bring us on to number 3, Chris Jenkins. Also a second round grade on him. And I just love Chris Jenkins. He does have a skill set that may cause him to fall further in this draft than this, but also maybe that's why he's not going to be taken in the first round. He is absolutely dominant against the run. He's a big-time run defender. He also did very well as a pass rusher, but that's not like his big thing, whereas Braden Fisk much better as a pass rusher. Chris Jenkins, I just really like the all-around game for one. But I really like him as a person. Like, he seems super nice. I'll talk about that in a little bit. On the field, very strong punch, high positional IQ. He is nephew to Cullen Jenkins, son of Chris Jenkins, two great NFL football players, uncle and dad there. Obviously, is disciplined in his gap control. Once again, very good, run blocker. He gets nice and low in his pre-snap stance, like really low, and he doesn't do the thing that I can't think of his name. I really liked him a lot. Kind of a flop this year for Dallas, from Michigan, defensive tackle. Some of you know who I'm talking about, who kind of sat back in his stance, which I actually saw a different edge rusher doing. So I think that's something that they coach there a little bit, or were coaching there. But regardless, he doesn't sit back onto his butt, which seems to be more of a disadvantage than whatever the purpose of it is if they're coaching that into them in Michigan. Chris Jenkins doesn't do that. And he has above average arm length, so that's 6'2.5". That helps you to get the leverage, which I always like that in guys shorter, long-armed dudes. If he can add to the pass rush repertoire, if he can get more of a pass rush game plan, he might have the ability to do that. He also struggles against double teams, and his reaction time to the snap is not the fastest, which is never good. That's a good way to find yourself on your butt, of course, as well, or not getting the leverage on the play. He is defensive end versatile, and he made Bruce Feldman's Freaks list and the number 6 on that list. And like I said, he's super likable. Really liked an interview that I saw with him on NFL Network, I believe, at the Combine. He came off very humble, and I would even say he was kind of like a big teddy bear, adorable in his interview. He was a little bit nervous for it. But he hid his nerves really well, which is always actually, I think, a skill that I like to see in football players, that ability to overcome those nerves. But you could also see that he was extremely excited, and not even like, he was excited to be on camera. No, he was just excited about the process, and he was soaking everything up like a wide-eyed puppy golden lab or something, Will he be the third guy off of the board for interior defensive lineman? I don't know. Debatable. There's a lot of pretty darn good ones, that's for sure. Let's bring us on to my top 2, which Jerzon Newton here at number 2. And Jerzon is 6'1.5", 304 pounds. So stout little guy. Little 6'1.5", towers over me. Not little by any means, but shorter for the position. He has an elite pass rush win rate of 15.4%. That is his game. He is extremely versatile. You can put him pretty much anywhere along the line if you want. Ultra athletic, super agile, super bendy. He's got strength at the point of attack. He's not going to be pushed back, that's for sure. Weaknesses, he's very short, but is that really a weakness? I don't think so, but some might. So he is very short, and maybe he doesn't knock down as many balls as you would expect. And here's where the weakness does come with his height. He does have below average arm length and extremely small wingspan to go on top of that, so that's not fantastic. He only has an average get off on the snap. He's not the most elite with that get off, which once again, can set you behind in the rep, which isn't great. And every millisecond really does count at the NFL level. And he can't hold up too well against double teams. Not seeing a whole lot of that in this class anyways, at this, with the better guys in the class at least. So once again, 21 and a half years old, still growing. And he's really good at what he does. And what he does is a little bit of everything, but most importantly, gives you that pass rush from the interior, and he can hold up against the run just fine, which is going to bring us to my number 1 interior defensive lineman in Byron Murphy. And don't forget, we're going to have a couple of gems here too, but Byron Murphy is actually shorter, 6'1.5", 297 pounds, a little bit smaller. He has an elite pass rush win rate himself of 19.6%, and that is well beyond elite. What was Jerson's was already elite at 15.4%, and yeah, Byron Murphy just insane, almost 20% win rate, 1 out of every 5 snaps, 5 to 7 times a game. He's getting pressure. Yeah, that's insane. That's every single game. You'll take that, or on average at least. You definitely take that. He can wreak havoc in the backfield, as you can tell. He does have a very explosive first step, something we were missing from some of the others, and he's got above average strength, so that's how he's good. His lateral movement isn't top notch, so that stinks. He does lack a little bit of anger in his hands, the mean, heavy hands. He's not great in pursuit from behind. You know, once the plays behind him, don't expect too much from Byron Murphy. And once again, the short arms are rearing themselves up with these shorter guys. Makes sense. Below average arm length, very short wingspan, just like Jerzon Newton. But we've seen plenty of guys be able to overcome that with the smaller size, being able to get leverage, get up into guys, and being able to disengage from there. But it doesn't always work out. 21.5 years old himself. Bruce Feldman's freak list also. Number 18 on the freaks list there. Byron Murphy is a freak in all of the best ways possible. And there are my top 8 interior defensive linemen, which is going to bring us into my gems for this class. And first up, we've got Tyler Davis, who I have a 3rd to 4th round grade on. So I like to take gems like 5th round and back. But to be honest, I'm finding a few less of them this year. And some of that might just be that I've changed up my scouting process. So maybe that's hurting my ability to find some of these later round guys. But Tyler Davis is definitely not somebody who a lot of people have a 3rd to 4th round grade on. Anyways, 6'2", 301 pounds, great pass rush win rate, 10.5% himself. Once again, that's great, even though that's only half of what we saw from Byron Murphy. He does a very good job of getting low, creating leverage, his pad level consistently nice and low. He is built to withstand an NFL punishment 3 down guy, in my opinion. Very strong upper body strength, and he has a solid first step, which is something that we were missing from some of the guys. You like that. He does leave his post sometimes, leaving in his gap control is not the best. He has extremely short arms and an extremely short wingspan. He also made Bruce Feldman's freak list, number 55 on that list. I believe there's 100 total on that list. But Tyler Davis, this really comes down to watching the tape on him as well. I really like it, and I'm surprised that people don't like him more. But maybe he'll be a riser. Maybe it's just sometimes that happens. Some of these guys just don't get talked about, and then all of a sudden they do. So Tyler Davis, I'm throwing out there, and please, give me any reasons that you don't like him if you're somebody who pays close attention to this draft. That's going to bring us on to McKinley Jackson, who got a 4th round draft grade on. Actually moved him back after the combine in my rankings. Was more excited about him pre-combine. 6'1.5", 326 pounds. Got a good pass rush win rate himself. He is extremely girthy. Once again, 326 pounds at 6'1.5". That's very girthy. I know it's not Devondre Sweat girth, but it's close to that level of pounds per inch is what I'm talking about when we talk about girth. Just the rotundness of the man. He's very short and very heavy. That helps him to be able to set the anchor incredibly well. And he's got above average arm length as well to work with, which is a very good trait. It is not 100% consistent, but his get off I thought was good. And he has power and explosiveness that he gets through. For his size, he has extremely good acceleration. Once again, that is for his size and because of his extreme girth. What that means is that technically it's not that great of acceleration, but what acceleration he is generating also has a lot of weight behind it, and that can work in his favor, even if he's not gaining as much ground as quickly. He's against another 300-pound man. sometimes going to be able to gain that ground more easily, at least. Then the weakness here is going to be utilizing that length of his. I talked about the above average arm length. I really didn't see him using that to his advantage very often, which is unfortunate. If he can learn to do that, I think he could really become a bit of a beast at the next level. Like, that's really a big missing piece. Lateral movement in pursuit, things that aren't going to be in his bag. And once again, like Devontae Sweat, like once the plays and other guys, once the play Byron Murphy is behind them, don't expect them to be catching up from behind. Very poor agility, very slow in pursuit. Just talked about that. Body control isn't the best. That's going to come to utilizing his length yet again. If you could just do a little better job with that, that would be great. He was good in college. He wasn't great. He wasn't elite or anything like that. And once again, the combine was poor. But I also really like the tape quite a bit, and I'm trusting the tape over the combine here. And that's where I ended up keeping him in the 4th round here, at least, even though he did lose some steam for me. And really was a guy who was, I think, coming into the... if I've said draft my mistake, into the combine as a guy who could make a name for himself, move up, maybe Braden Fisk-esque type of day, we could be talking about him as a 2nd to 3rd round guy. He might not get taken in the 4th round. It might be later than that even, but I'm putting a 4th round grade on him. I really like him a lot, and I'll be excited for whoever ends up getting him.
Me, Steve, of the Fantasy Football Forge. I wanted to make you aware of some of the benefits that you can receive by becoming a supporting member of the channel for the low price of 99 cents. Upon becoming a channel member, you will receive a link to a Discord channel where you can communicate with the community on a whole, and at this time of draft season, you will also receive access to a bunch of extra benefits. Number 1. Write-ups for each player I've scouted at each position, some of their strengths, their weaknesses, and extra notes that I wrote about each of them. Number 2, my positional draft board with players in order of their draft grade via round, 1st round, 2nd round, 2nd/3rd round draft grade, etc. Number 3, my top 50 big board. Thank you very much for any and all of your support. And now back to your regularly scheduled programming.
That's going to bring us on to my top 10 edge rushers. At pick 10, we have Adisa Isaac, 6'4.5", 247 pounds. He's been great against the run, and obviously he's a pass rusher as well. So, guy you can trust on all 3 downs. He's good positional IQ. And he has a few pass rush moves already, which is great. Good at stunts. His play strength, his awareness, how well he does in one-on-one situations are not great. He is a little bit slender for the position. That probably hurts him in those one-on-one situations, but that's once again where getting him in on a stunt is going to go a long ways, help to create a little bit of room for him to work with. He did have below average quickness and speed, extremely slow actually for his size. It felt like often enough his teammates were playing well enough that the play would naturally flow into Isaac, and he did an excellent job of playing the cleanup man. So yeah, a little bit slower, maybe his teammates are getting there first, and then they were flushing him into Adisa, but the thing is Adisa Isaac was finishing the play. He wasn't, consistently allowing the play to continue when his teammates did a good job. So that was what I saw a lot on tape, where I think he's getting credit for some of the stuff that he did. So, I'm not like, oh my God, he sucks. I got a 2nd to 3rd round grade on him, but there are some concerns for Adisa Isaac and what the upside is. And I don't know that it's ultimately the highest of upsides, which is why I have him in at my number 10 rusher, but really good production. Braylon Trice as my edge, number 9, 2nd to 3rd round grade on him, 6'3.5", 245 pounds, plays with a high motor, high effort, a variety of pass rush moves already in his repertoire, and he's got very active hands. Those are all very great things. Fortunately, he doesn't always finish the play, not great at tackling, not great at shedding the blocks. Those are big concerns. He is below average size, which makes sense as to why he might struggle with the tackling and the shedding of the blocks. Very small hands, wingspan, below average arm length, below average speed and quickness for his size specifically. He has limited upside, in my opinion. He lacks any kind of elite twitch. His hand fighting is inconsistent, despite having very active hands, and he lacks quick change of direction abilities, which you would like to see more of that along the defensive line than he has. Nonetheless, still a very good prospect, just has enough concerns here that I won't be surprised if he goes into day 3, and I'm not, clamoring to get him in the second round. There's other guys that I like as well. Chris Braswell, also second to third round grade on him. 6'3.5" as well, 251 pounds. Bralen Trice, more of your big, beefier guy up front, and not the ultimate athlete or anything like that. Chris Braswell, more of your linebacker, your 3-4 compared to the 4-3 type of edge rusher here. He's got power, he's got motor, he does have quickness. He can drop back and help you out a little bit in coverage as well. Weaknesses for him is going to be the agility, the flexibility, the reach that he has, his pad level, play recognition, and he is not the quickest to get off at the snap. So you would like to see him do better with that, and I think that's one thing that's really holding him back. He ends up winning a lot of reps, but he does not win them quickly. He wins them with effort, much like Bralen Trice at the end of the day there. He was number 10 on Bruce Feldman's Freaks list, and I do think that he has a little bit more upside to him than Bralen Trice, but it doesn't come through on the field as much as you would like to see it. So that is where Chris Braswell, second to third round draft grade on him as well, brings us to my number 7 edge rusher in Darius Robinson, a guy who a lot of people might think might be going in the first round and has really had himself a stellar offseason. 6'5", 285 pounds. He's one of those guys you could call a tweener between being a defensive end, a defensive tackle, or is he an edge rusher, an interior defensive lineman, or an edge rusher. And at the end of the day, we are putting him in the edge rusher category because that seems to be how the NFL is looking at him, which is perfectly fine. That is where he tested at the combine as an edge rusher. 6'5", 285 pounds, did I say? Yeah, he's got some good size. He's also very good against the run, even great against the run. He is a physical threat. He is the kind of guy who, when he comes off of the bus, you notice him and he can be threatening. He's extremely girthy, and not only does he have a lot of girth on him, but unlike a guy like T'Vondre Sweat, he's rocked up. It's intimidating weight. It's not weight where you think, well, at least I could outrun that guy as long as I don't let him get his hands on me. I'll be fine. Which, by the way, a lot of us probably can't outrun T'Vondre Sweat. But, extremely girthy Darius Robinson. Extremely large hands. Just a big human being. Very long arms. Extremely large wingspan. Just a big dude, and he plays with a lot of effort. A Dan Campbell kind of guy would be a good way of saying. He has the alignment versatility to line up really anywhere on the line, and he can bring a good amount of passing, down pressure from anywhere along the line as well. But that is where he does struggle a little bit as a pure edge rusher. He doesn't quite have the athleticism to match a lot of his companions, a lot of pure edge rushers. He's not like a guy you're going to put in a wide 9 stance. He doesn't have an extremely slow acceleration. He doesn't have really good long speed, though it is above average for his size. How often is he going to be using that long speed? Who cares? He's also newer to being kind of an edge, so he can learn a little bit more. I don't want to call him raw, but he lacks counter moves, and he lacks the flexibility and bend that typically you would be looking for from an edge rusher. Once again, bit of a unique guy here, though. We can forgive him for some of those sins because of what he is bringing and because of just the amazing process that he's had. What I will say about him going in the first round, and this is where one of my concerns comes from, and it's a team fit is going to be more important than anything for me for Darius Robinson, is that often enough in the game against Georgia that they played, I noticed that Georgia just did not block him at all. They weren't worried about him because the play was, not only was it a quick play, but going opposite side of the field. So anytime it was a quick play that was going to the opposite side of the field, they didn't worry about blocking him at all. They totally ignored him, and the reason was he wasn't quick enough for them to be concerned at all while he was, this is when he's lined up over at the edge spot to affect the play, basically, because he wasn't going to be able to get there quick enough. So that was something that they caught on film at that level, and I just wonder how much that might hurt him at the next level. Regardless, a lot of mobility, and every play is not going to be a quick play to the opposite side of the field. And he's got some dominant strength and tools that you can still work with and mold, I think, a little bit further. Let's bring us on to my number 6 edge rusher. Probably won't be going ahead of Darius Robinson, but I got a bit of a draft crush here on Marshon Neal. If he was lower, I could put him in my gems list, but I'm not putting guys that I have on this in my gems list. Marshon Neal is 6'3", 270 pounds. He is great to elite against the run. Very good. You can keep him out there on all 3 downs. What I wrote is that he's like if you combined a ping pong ball with a wrecking ball. If it's not him bouncing off of people in traffic, it's them bouncing off of him in traffic. He is versatile alignment himself. Another guy you can line up in a lot of different spots from the interior of the line out, put his fingers in the dirt, to standing up. All of it should be doable for him. He's another guy extremely girthy. He's very long arms and a very long wingspan that he utilizes to his advantage. He is extremely quick, although he is not a great athlete, and agile. Now, that said, you would like to see this quickness and agileness show up on the field more. That is a note from his combine, and I do feel like it's a little bit hard to see it, but at the same time, I do think that that's what we're seeing sometimes when I talk about him being like a ping pong, whether he's a ping pong ball and a wrecking ball, is he's got that kind of that balance. He's got those quick feet to stay balanced and to bounce off of people. Short area burst, bend are a lot of times what we're going to be looking for there. I would like to see a little bit more of those things from him, hopefully being in a new conditioning program, much better conditioning program than he would have had in college, can help him to take what he worked on, for the combine to get those numbers that he did in the shuttle and the 3-cone drills, which were elite numbers, to take that and help that to translate onto the field a little bit better. So that was honestly the tiebreaker between Darius Robinson and Marshon Neal for me, was looking at the raw athletics and hoping that that can be translated onto the field a little bit better. And he's also a little bit more of a polished edge rusher, in terms of knowing the edge rushing position, IQ-wise, more so than Darius Robinson, who's newer to the position. Other than that, like I said, not an elite athlete by any terms. He will probably struggle if asked to do any kind of coverage duties, but I do think that, now and then, well, you hope that he holds up on the downs that you ask him to, because I do think that you can align him out there as a guy standing up, and you're just going to have to give him really shallow zones to work with, kind of thing. Against a team who's going to be doing a lot of screen passes and whatnot is where you're going to, an RPO is where him playing off the ball will hopefully not bite you in the butt. Level of competition that he faced, how well does he translate to the next level? We haven't seen him play against the best of the best every week, like some other guys have had more of a chance to do, and he's got very small hands, once again. How much does it hurt? I don't know, but it doesn't help. And so there is Marshon Neal, once again, one of my favorite prospects from this edge rushing class, just in terms of funness and hoping for him to succeed. But that's going to bring us to Jonah Ellis. Pierce second round grade on Jonah Ellis, 6'2", 248 pounds, very quick and very large hands. He's consistently pushes the pocket, plays with a super high motor. He's got a quick first step. He's one of the fastest, if not the fastest in this class in terms of his first step. From what I could see, he also shows great closing speed. So at the start of the rep and at the end of the rep, very, very quick. He displays good discipline to maintain his gap in the run game, and he's got a pass rush plan. He's got a high positional IQ. He knows what he's doing. He's bringing something to the table. I really think he might be getting underlooked. I don't want to call him as much of a draft crush as Marshon Neal, but definitely might be getting a little bit underappreciated. Jonah Ellis, you watch him, tape, it's really, really exciting to watch. He is very short. He is very below average weight for the position, so you hope that doesn't come back to bite him. And unfortunately, for a guy who might be a little underweight and durability might be a concern, he does come with injury concerns. So that's going to hurt his draft stock. I still think somebody's going to pop on him in the second round. I know I would. And a little bit of a limited flex and bend when he's trying to turn the corner. But a lot of times, he's already halfway to the quarterback before he needs those tools. Of course, it's not going to be like that too often in the NFL. So there we go. Jonah Ellis. Really, really, really like him a lot. But trying to keep this pace a little bit moved up. Chop Robinson here at my edge rusher number 4. And Chop Robinson is going to be very, very much in the same vein as Dallas Turner for me. But Chop Robinson just much more raw than Dallas Turner. Both of them highly athletic. I'm doing this kind of so we don't have to talk as much about Dallas Turner. But, these are the types of players that these two are. So Chop Robinson, high motor, high effort kind of guy, explosive, extremely athletic, extremely quick acceleration. He's very fast, great explosive first step, very agile with quick feet. Sometimes he shows great bend, sometimes he doesn't. You'd like that to be a little bit more consistent, and that's where a little bit of the stiffness shows up. He is not, well, he's still kind of quite raw at the position, but a lot of potential for Chop Robinson. Will he go in the first round or the second round? I don't know. I could see it going either way, but he's got all the tools to succeed. It's just a matter of, molding the clay, so to speak, and it doesn't always come together. And so, okay, that's right. I have Dallas Turner ranked third. So back to back, Dallas Turner, like I said, very in the same vein as that, 6'2.5", 247 pounds. As far as all the athletics, he does actually bring more bend to the table. He's a lot more comfortable at the position. He's got great length as well, very large wingspan, above average arm length. He did do quite poor overall against the run, not a great run stop rate. So that's not something you're necessarily hoping or asking from Dallas Turner. I don't think you really are going to be expecting that from Chop Robinson either. Shedding blocks is an issue. Speed to power is an issue for Dallas Turner. And he is on the smaller side, below average height and weight, but he's fine size-wise. Girth-wise, slenderness, not an issue. 21 years old, he's very young, moldable himself, and like I said, further along as an edge rusher than Chop Robinson by a long ways. And so although I do have him at 3 and 4, in terms of where they should end up being drafted, a little bit more of a chasm than just that 3 to 4 spot would look like. But that's going to bring us on to my number 2 edge rusher, Jared Verse, who I'm very excited to let the world know that I have him ahead of Dallas Turner. I didn't know that this would be the case, really coming into reevaluating these edge rushers from my initial rankings, but ended up being the case. 6'4", 256 pounds, and so he is a speed to power straight up, extremely strong guy. He's a human bulldozer. He's got heavy attacking hands on top of that, and here is what I really like about him and why I like him more than Dallas Turner ultimately. Is he's not only a strong dude, but he also does have a pass rush plan. He's not all power. He knows how to use, your swim moves. He knows how to get to the quarterback in other ways, and he has other tools already prepared at his ready. He's a high motor player as well. He's never out of the play. An explosive first step, very, very quick off of the ball. Similar, but more so than Lito Luatule. His athletic profile was more than enough to not be overly concerned about his move up to the next level. So yeah, both him and Lito Luatule, you look at the raw numbers from the combine, and outside of like the bench reps for Jared Verse, it's not something that's going to shock you. But when you compare it to what you see on the field, you're happy that those were the numbers that came in, and they weren't bad. You're more than happy, more than enough to say, I think that what he's doing at the college level, he should be able to maintain that at least at the next level, and be able to do that against a little bit, higher echelon of an opponent. His traits shall translate, hopefully. Gap discipline, shedding blocks, run play diagnosis, stamina, all things that I have in his weakness list. Number 26 on Bruce Feldman's freaks list. And here is where another reason that he might not get taken higher than Dallas Turner. 23 and a half years old. So 2.5 years older than Dallas Turner. That's quite possibly going to hurt him. I will say, while we are in these post, what was that thing called? Pandemic classes, I've been paying attention to age a little bit less because there's been a lot of older prospects coming out. And so until we return to normal, which I think maybe there's still going to be a little bit of a hangover next year, and then we should be out of like the post-pandemic class. It's just a little bit less of a concern age-wise, because that just kept people back for one reason or another a year longer than they might have otherwise been kept back often enough. That's going to bring us to my number 1 edge rusher, if you can tell, Lito Luatule. And it's very simple. I guess I should give you his measurements. He is 6'4.5", 262 pounds, and it's like I was starting to say, extremely simple for Lito Luatule. He is the most prepared edge rusher when it comes to everything between the ears, behind the eyes, the IQ of the game, having a pass rushing plan, all of that, and then of course turning that into production. is all there. Lito Luatule is a world beater of a prospect. I absolutely love him. Where your concern for him is what's the ceiling, but honestly, I think the floor is so darn high that the ceiling is not crushing in on him. But like, even in the worst case scenario, that ceiling is still high enough that I'll take this floor. And I do like hunting for upside very often, but when an edge rusher shows you as much as they've shown at his level, not many guys come out of college this prepared with this much of a game plan. He knows what the offensive linemen are doing before they know what they're going to do. And he's always prepared and just so natural and good at the position. And I'm sure, watches tape relentlessly, I'm sure, and all of that good stuff. So I love Lito Luatule as my number one edge rusher, which is going to bring us to a couple of a few gems here in this draft. So first up, we've got Austin Booker, who I've got a 3rd round draft grade on. He is my edge rusher number 11, so kind of not really. I like my gems once again to be like 5th round and beyond if possible. I don't think we quite make it there for any of these. Regardless, Austin Booker is my guy in this draft. 6'4.5", 240 pounds. He is raw, and he has the physical and positional development to go. So raw as far as the position goes, and physically, he still has development there to go too. But the upside for this guy is great. He's got a great spin move already, so that's good. He's flexible enough to get decent bend around the edge. He can drop into coverage in short range and hold up. I don't believe that his body is done developing. I think he can bulk up without losing agility, flexibility, speed, etc. There are some of the concerns, but before I get to that, I will give you Daniel Jeremiah's comp for him was Kirkland brand Max Crosby. He's extremely slender. He's very underweight. This is where I'm saying I think he needs to bulk up, and I think he can bulk up. And so in a few years, watch out for this guy. But he is a bit of a development, and so that's why we got him in the 3rd round. But don't forget about Austin Booker. Also, the draft combine was a little bit disappointing for him. It's going to bring us on to my number 2 prospect here in Cedric Johnson, 6'3", 260 pounds. It's going to be a guy who works best without his hands in the dirt. He could be a best fit for a 3-4 defense. Not that I don't think that matters a whole lot in the modern NFL, 3-4, 4-3, but it still might matter a little bit in terms of just what the coordinators are looking for from these guys talent-wise. But he does bring some versatility to the alignment as well for you. He's got an above-average initial get-off and burst, even better for his size, above-average upper strength, and he plays with good hustle. He is poor against the run. His tackling and his finishing of plays is a concern. He's great at disrupting the play, but often enough he requires that someone plays cleanup to end the play. He doesn't really, end up getting the production, and that obviously hurts. He has inconsistent hands. He doesn't really have any counter moves once he's locked up on a play or anything like that. He's still under 22 years old, and I really, really like the tape on Cedric Johnson. Go check him out. He is my guy, a gem, and so is Nelson Caesar, who is got a 4th to 5th round draft grade on him as well. 6'2.5", 254 pounds. He is good against the run. He is very strong. He's versatile in where you can align him as well, and he plays with a high motor. His weaknesses are going to be his agility, short area quickness. His counter moves aren't really there yet again. Pad level needs to get down a little bit lower in his stance. Other than that, he's 23 years old. And what I really, really liked about, I talked about his versatile alignment, and it's not probably in the way that you're thinking, because they actually would put him sometimes out in the slot against, and, I saw him blow up a quick wide receiver screen while he was lined up in the slot. So there you go. That's kind of the versatility, like an edge slot kind of player. That's how they utilized him in college a little bit. I just found that so very interesting and exciting, and once again, really liked his tape, so go check that out if you can. And that is going to bring us to the end of the interior defensive lineman and the edge rushers. Thank you very, very much for staying tuned, and let me know what you think, what you agree with, what you disagree with. I am open to changing my opinions based on any evidence that comes my way. Hopefully if you made it to this point, you probably are too. So I appreciate you very much. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you really actually made it this far. Thank you very much. Peace out.